Hi, I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Dan.
And this is episode 16 of the One I Auto Talking to Joe.
Welcome back.
We got a question from a viewer about how to prevent making a mess in the garage, and then when you do make the mess, how the heck you're going to clean it up.
Yeah.
So we're going to go over that today.
So anytime you work on a car, it's going to be inevitable that you're going to get dirty and you're going to get messy. But there's quite a bit you can do ahead of time to be prepared for that and make less of a mess on the ground and of yourself.
Very true.
So one of the things that I always use is gloves. Disposable ones you can find at just about any local drugstore. I like the Nitrile gloves. They're a little heavier duty, last a little bit longer and don't tear quite as easily. Especially when it comes to some of the more corrosive chemicals.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, some of the latex gloves, you put them on, and then as soon as you touch them brake clean, they blow up like a balloon.
Yep.
And then it's like this crazy, like clown-sized hand on your hand, and
yeah.
it looks
or
ridiculous.
gasoline makes them tear quicker too.
Exactly. So the nitrile ones are definitely the better of the two.
Yeah.
Or there's a lot of people that are allergic to latex too.
Yep.
So
right.
You go with what you can.
Yeah. And if at the sacrifice of feel, but for longer lasting gloves, some of your heavier duty dishwashing gloves.
Yes.
You're not going to be able to find the little hard to reach spots or the little nuts and bolts that you might be hiding behind a hose.
Yep.
But you won't tear them quite as easily. They'll last a lot longer, and they'll take a heavier beating, especially if you got to scrub parts down. They won't tear.
Yeah, one of the gloves that I was using for quite a while were cotton gloves with the little black dots on them. And they're great for gripping things and good for bigger projects like replacing transmissions or engines or things like that. But they're terrible for, little nuts and bolts that are like hidden behind a pulley or something like that. You'd never be able to do them. So the nitrile gloves are way better for the more intricate stuff. But just recently I swapped from the cotton dotted gloves to a different type of cotton glove that looks like it's dipped in rubber.
Yep.
So that the bottom of the glove is actually like rubberized, and they last, I don't know, probably 10 times as long as the cotton ones with the dots on them.
Interesting.
Because those ones, the cotton ones with the dots, I always burn through all the fingertips, and then it's like the cool 1980s gloves that have like the open fingertips. Yep. So yeah, these new gloves that I'm using, they are far better, and it's like $1.50 a pair of them. You can buy them online in sets of like 10, 20, 100 million, I don't know. But they're cheap, is what I'm getting at. And they last, I have 2 sets of them, and I've probably had them for a couple months now. And I work on my cars a lot. So
yeah.
It's a good set of gloves to go with.
Yeah, and also, too, if you're doing something where there's going to be a lot of sharp metal, heavier bits, or hotter stuff, leather palmed gloves, like your work gloves that you use outside, or there are mechanic specific ones too that are a little more flexible, come in very handy. Again, those are situations where you're not trying to get really touchy feely. It's just more of trying to get the job done and not burn yourself or cut yourself, because there's a lot of sharp stuff in your car, and there's a lot of hot stuff, especially if you just parked it.
Exactly. Yeah, a good set of welding gloves is gold. It's a fantastic thing to have if you're working on a hot exhaust or something like that, or if you're welding.
So your biggest messes come from fluids either going in or coming out. Ahead of time, get yourself prepared by they actually sell what looks like a gigantic cookie sheet, probably good 3 foot by 4 foot kind of thing you can put under the whole vehicle.
Yep, they're awesome.
And that'll catch any loose debris that falls. Also, any nuts or bolts that you may have dropped, so you're not scouring the whole driveway for it.
Very true. And they tuck away. When you're done, you can put it against the wall, and it doesn't take up a bunch of space in your garage or shed or whatever you're using.
Exactly. And you won't get in trouble for using the actual cookie trays.
Yes. Yeah, I do have a fair amount of old cookie sheets in my garage right now.
I think I have a pizza tin in mine, too, as well.
Pizza tins work great, too.
Yeah. But in conjunction with that is they sell, it's an oil absorbent mat. Looks kind of like a really thick paper towel, if not a really thin diaper.
Right.
And basically serves that purpose. Anything that does spill and drops down, it soaks up like a sponge.
Yep.
And you can just dispose of it afterwards.
Yeah, so you put one of those mats inside the cookie sheet or whatever you're using to catch stuff.
Yep.
And As soon as the antifreeze hits that, rather than splashing all over the place, it gets absorbed right in the absorbent towel, and then boom, way less mess.
Right. And while that comes in handy for little spills, little drips, stuff like that, if you're doing anything antifreeze, oil, transmission fluid related, you do actually want to get a big container jug specifically for those.
Yeah. Yeah, and in my case, I have a specific one for oil and a specific one for antifreeze.
Same, and actually the oil ones are really convenient because a lot of them they have they're capped off.
Yeah.
So you can literally just once you're done with that, you cover all the little various holes that are in it.
Yep.
Throw it in the trunk of the car, and you can take it right to your oil recycler. For us, a lot of auto parts stores take back oil.
Yep.
So you don't have to find another container. You don't have to get any more messy, any more drips anywhere else.
Yep, very true.
Yep.
And you take your oil filter off and you put it right in the top of it.
Yep.
And it drains right in. It's not like the open bucket where the oil filter doesn't have anything to drain against.
Yeah, it just sits there.
Yeah, it just sits there.
and you don't lose your drain plug too.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, it's nice to have two of those buckets. They're cheap.
Yep.
I mean, you could probably get both of them for $12 or something like that.
Yep.
They're very cheap.
Yeah, and if you also go with two different ones, if as long as your antifreeze one is clean, you can reuse it again if the antifreeze is clean. So you don't have to worry about oil contamination in there.
Yes. And you always want to get the bigger one because sometimes you start emptying out the antifreeze and you realize, wait, this thing holds like 100 gallons of antifreeze.
Yes.
and my bucket is not big enough.
Yep.
I've had that happen many times, and then it overflows the bucket, and now you're in a world of hurt.
Right.
So you always want to get the bigger drain bucket if you have the option of two of them in the store.
Yeah. One of the other things we found really handy, especially if you've bought appliances in the last year or so, save the cardboard.
Yes.
To lay on, to catch drips, to catch any mess, to slide parts around, tools around.
Yep. Yeah, cardboard's fantastic because if you don't have a garage to work in, or even if you do, cardboard is super comfortable to lay under or lay on when you're under a car.
Compared to asphalt.
Compared
rocks
to asphalt, yeah, grass, gravel.
Yep.
I mean, it's fantastic. Plus, it absorbs everything that, well, most things that come out of your car. As long as it's not in a super large quantity.
Yep.
And when you're done, you recycle it and move on. Go get yourself a new piece of cardboard, and you're fresh again. And like you mentioned, it's good to slide things on. You can drop your transmission onto a piece of cardboard. Pull the cardboard rather than dragging it through the dirt or gravel or grass or whatever the heck you're working on.
Yeah, you'll also keep your clothes a lot cleaner too because you're not running around in the dirt and laying on your back, and you'll save your washing machine and the next load after that one a bit.
That's it.
So, and one of the other things that I've found really handy recently is save your plastic bags. Sometimes that oil filter's in a weird spot that's going to drip everywhere if you just let it fall. Or anytime you're draining a hose that may still have some fluid in it, loosen everything up, and right before you're ready to drop it down and let it go, get the bag over it and pull it down. You won't collect all the mess, but you'll collect a lot more than if you just let everything just lay as it was.
Yeah. I've never tried this before. I just learned about this a few minutes ago, and it sounds like a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I saved at least a good quart of oil from going all over the ground and the cross member on my car because they just happened to put the oil filter right above a spot that had nowhere to go.
Exactly, yeah. My truck is the same way. It actually has like a little drip tray under the oil filter that does nothing. You take off the oil filter and it just goes everywhere. So I don't know what the drip tray is intended for. It does not work. It's horrible. So trying that plastic bag is something I'm going to do next. So during these jobs, the best way to prevent a mess is to remove the fluid in a controlled manner or add the fluid in a controlled manner.
Right.
So there's a few different areas of the engine that are notorious for making a disaster.
Yep.
Oil changes, obviously one of them. We already talked about that.
Yep.
Another one is putting transmission fluid in a manual transmission. If you've ever had to do this, getting a quart of fluid, which smells like putrid, into a manual transmission is really difficult because the transmission hump is always in the way of where you want to put that quart of transmission fluid. So, one thing that I came across recently on a video on YouTube, strangely enough, is a cheap pump that you can get at any auto parts store or online. There's a bunch of different places you can get them, but it's just a simple pump that goes in a quart container, and you just basically hook up a hose to it, put it in the transmission, and just start pumping the quart, and it empties the quart out, and you don't have any mess.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And you can hook up to a hose too to get a little more clearance, a little more room, and be a little more flexible when, like you said, you're fighting with a transmission hump, or same thing with like a differential, and you're fighting with suspension or exhaust.
Yep.
Any flexibility you can get in there, any extra room or space you can get yourself. Save a lot of hassle.
Absolutely. So yeah, the next time you're doing a transmission job and need to get the fluid in, go get one of those pumps, because it's going to save you a whole lot of mess and a whole lot of aggravation.
Yep.
It's just totally worth it.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I found handy for getting fluids out is using the spray bottle top. I recently did a water pump where there was a little valley where coolant would collect, and if you just let it lie, it would not let the gasket seal correctly. It wouldn't let the RTV cure. So basically just took the spray bottle off of one of my household cleaners, cleared everything out, and stuck the straw end into where the fluid was and sprayed into an empty container that I had.
Right.
It helped get rid of all the mess there without, I don't know how else I would have drained the thing. Lots of paper towels, which make a mess and really not good.
Yeah.
Also came in handy when I was doing the fluid in the supercharger snout. One of the most putrid smelling, even worse than gear oil.
Right.
And never serviced. This little plug that they give you for access to it, and really no other way other than I have also seen people use a little plastic syringe.
Yep.
Same deal. This is a little bit quicker to pull everything out.
Yeah, I imagine that could be good for like doing thermostats and stuff, because you often take off the thermostat cap, you take out the thermostat, and it's full.
Yep.
And now you have to empty it enough so that you don't put the new thermostat in and then overflow the thermostat housing and pour antifreeze all over the top of the engine.
Yep.
So yeah, that's definitely a good tip. Another one that I've done recently is gone to the supermarket and gotten a turkey baster.
Same here.
Yeah, it's fantastic for emptying power steering reservoirs, coolant overflow bottles, and brake systems.
Yes.
Obviously, you want to clean it before you interchange these different fluids.
Yep.
But if you want to empty out a master cylinder so you don't dump all the brake fluid all over your fender when you remove the master cylinder.
And remove all the paint.
Yeah, because brake fluid is a paint remover.
Yep.
So yeah, you can stick your turkey baster into the master cylinder or into the overflow bottle, into the power steering reservoir.
Pretty much anywhere you got fluid that's collecting and sitting that you don't want on the ground.
Right, and it's an easy way to change out a lot of the fluid. Like the bulk of your brake fluid is in your master cylinder.
Yep.
So if you ever just want to swap the fluid without actually pumping it all through the system, you empty out the master cylinder with a turkey baster. Not all master cylinders allow this, but many of them do. Put your new fluid in, bleed the brakes a little, and you've got new fluid in almost the whole system. And same thing goes with the power steering. You empty out the power steering reservoir, put the new fluid in, maybe a few days later, do the whole thing again, and the majority of your fluids is new. You get rid of that power steering whine that you've been crying about for so long.
Or if you're replacing something like a hose or the pump, getting all the fluid out you can ahead of time will spare you from a lot more mess on the ground, a lot more on the parts below it, any kind of headache. Yeah,
that's essentially it. So yeah, I mean those are some things to try and prevent the fluid from actually going all over you, all over the floor, all over the earth.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a few of our better tips.
So after you prepped everything, after you get the job done, you still made a mess.
Yes.
Yeah, you're one of us.
Exactly.
It happens no matter what.
Yeah, you didn't get the hand pump, you didn't get the turkey baster, you dumped gear oil all over yourself and all over your driveway.
You broke a hose and poured stuff everywhere.
Yeah, and now you need to hide it from your family.
Yes. So
the first thing to do is get some kitty litter. It's cheap. You can find it at like any grocery store and even a lot of convenience stores.
Yep.
You can technically get actual I think it's called Speedy Dry.
Yeah.
That is intended for doing this.
Right.
But kitty litter works, 85% is good.
Yeah. A parts store might not be open all the time that you're working on something or getting that job done at 11 o'clock at night.
Yes.
But you can probably find a convenience store or a drugstore that's got it.
Right. And kitty litter will absorb the heck out of oil, antifreeze, gear oil, anything that you have. It's going to get the majority of it.
Yes.
So I mean, once you have the majority of it up, you've thrown away the kitty litter. You can use something like Lestoil. Lestoil is one of my favorite chemicals on earth. It's technically, I think, a floor cleaner.
Yep.
It can be found in every grocery store on Earth.
Mhm.
It's yellow. It's beautiful. And you're supposed to mix it with water, and then you can scrub like a garage floor or a kitchen floor or whatever kind of floor you want. But it also cleans stains out of jeans, shirts, and it cleans your hands like you wouldn't believe. It's magic.
Now, if you don't have Lestoil, like the rest of us, I found regular dish soap does a really good job of getting rid of a lot of the grease and grime and grit that you've had.
Yep.
In conjunction with like a nail brush or some sort.
Yeah. And another thing that I've tried with dish soap is I actually just tried this like 2 weeks ago when I got 3M window weld on my hands, and it was impossible to get off.
Yep.
I probably still have some on my hands. But I tried dish soap with salt mixed into it, and it basically creates this like gritty soap, and it cleaned my hands very well. Not perfect, but a heck of a lot better than the soap itself would have. Plus, it left my hands feeling quite nice. So
exfoliated and whatnot.
Exactly.
Nice and smooth.
Right.
Now they do make a pumice soap that is a little heavier duty and meant more for this kind of cleanup. But again, you might have forgotten to buy some ahead of time. Part store might be closed, and you might just have to deal with what you got if you're at somebody else's house cleaning up.
This is true, and I mean, there's other things that get dirty when you're working on cars. Sometimes you'll get your seats dirty, you'll get some other car parts dirty, you spill oil on things that are going to get hot, and you don't want your car to be on fire.
Yep.
So you need to clean it with something. Brake clean is magical as well.
Yep.
Brake clean and carb clean are two things that I always keep them in stock.
Always have a couple of cans of brake clean handy.
Yeah, because they will clean anything.
Yep.
They will take the grease off of anything and the paint off of some things.
Yes, you got to be careful with that too.
Yeah.
It evaporates clean, so it's gone. There's no residue left over like some of the other. I think carb cleaner kind of leaves a little bit behind. Brake clean's pretty much gone.
Yes, exactly. The other thing that you can use, depending on what you're trying to clean, is lacquer thinner. Lacquer thinner will take like paint overspray off of stuff, and it will clean. It'll clean just about anything you want. It's also terrible to like inhale, touch.
Yeah, it's
which is the same with brake cleaner and carb cleaner. You're really not supposed to get it on your hands, your skin.
Right.
Whatever.
You want to make sure you're doing it in open area.
The vapors are flammable. I mean, it has everything going against you.
Yeah.
But they clean fantastic.
Right.
So, I mean, those are your options. You got to weigh your options out.
Also have paper towels handy. If you can splurge for them, get the shop towels.
Yep.
They're thicker. They'll absorb a lot more. They take a beating a lot better than your cheaper paper towels will.
Yes.
But use what you got and
definitely
bring a couple rolls with you.
Yes. And another thing to do is when you find yourself with a worn out T-shirt, you rip your armpit hole open or something like that. Take it out to the garage.
Yep.
That is a beautiful shop rag right there.
Yeah. My clothes kind of go from normal day living to working on stuff to being the shop rags.
Exactly, and then into the trash.
Yes, finally.
Yeah, and by that point, they don't even resemble clothing anymore.
No.
It's just disgusting.
Yeah.
So those are the tips we have for keeping your car clean, keeping your work surface clean, keeping yourself clean, and everything else around you. It'll make your house a little nicer. People won't think you're a weirdo for having disgusting clothes and hands.
Your driveway won't be a mess.
So hopefully these tips helped you out. Certainly share your own with us because we're car guys. We're trying to learn more.
We want to know what you do.
Yeah,
what we
works
missed
for
out
you
on.
guys. So tell us, share the video, and be sure to subscribe to us. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.